Hey guys, so if you've been following my videos, you'll know that the first episode I did of Jason Reads Shit was Clive Barker's short story collection, The Books of Blood. Well, today I'm going to be talking about one of his novels, specifically Imajica. The Books of Blood only touches more on Clive's horror side. Imajica is kind of basically everything his novels contains, all his types of characters, all the themes, all the story elements, and everything he's written is basically can be encapsulated in Imajica. Clive is a very talented and unique writer. He has a huge imagination. His themes of what reality is, the similarities between opposites like pain and pleasure, heaven, hell, good, evil, the gray areas between those things, sexuality, identity, memory, the power of words, the power of memories, the nature of other worlds that could exist alongside our own, God, faith. All of these things are encapsulated in this one novel. Those are things that run through the theme of everything he's pretty much written. And, but this is kind of like his defining work. Like, Imajica is ambitious, not only in its scope, but in size. It's a huge book. It's almost 1,000 pages long. And the story runs through several different twists and turns. There's several characters. It spans, worlds, including our own. It's a work that makes us rethink and question things. Changes our perceptions of identity, gender, God, belief, faith, religion, what is reality, metaphysics, magic. All these things are in this story. If I were to give a brief synopsis of the plot, I think the best way I would describe it would just to read kind of the description on the back. So I'm just going to read that to you guys. So it says, Imajica is an epic beyond compare, vast in conception, obsessively detailed in execution, and apocalyptic in its resolution. At its heart lies the sensualist and master art forger, Gentle, whose life unravels when he encounters Judith Odell, whose power to influence the destinies of men is vaster than she knows, and Pyopa, an alien assassin who comes from a hidden dimension. That dimension is one of 5 in the great system called Imajica. They are worlds that are utterly unlike our own, but are ruled, peopled, and haunted by species whose lives are intricately connected with ours. As Gentle, Judith, and Pyopa travel the Imajica, they uncover a trail of crimes and intimate betrayals, leading them to a revelation so startling it changes reality forever. Very well summed up. That sums it up better than I could in about 5 rambling paragraphs of description of plot. And there is quite a bit of plot here. There's things that come out unexpectedly. There's things that lead to natural conclusions you don't see coming. There's a lot of just huge concepts at play here. But the thing about Clive Barker's writing is he takes these things and makes them relatable. He puts them in the simplest language and just puts them out there in a way that is digestible to an ordinary reader. An average Joe could pick up Imajica, read it, and not be tangled up in existential or metaphysical concepts beyond his reasoning. He relates these things in a way that's pure storytelling. He writes a compelling story that happens to have these things in it, rather than trying to take these ideas and just cram them into a story, which, as if you follow my videos, I hate writers who do that. Above all else, Clive is a great writer. He's an artist. He likes to write imaginative, interesting stories. And the fact that these things are in his writing aren't because he's trying to, write around a concept. He just wants to tell a story. His stories just happen to be about and have these concepts, which makes them so interesting. So I more than highly recommend Imajica. It's actually one of my very favorite Clive Barker novels. If you've ever heard of him and wanted to kind of get into him, it's actually a pretty good place to start. It's so much more ambitious and vast in its goals than the Books of Blood. Books of Blood was basically kind of just Clive's idea of like, what's the most horrific scenarios I could imagine? I'll write a story about them. And he wrote several stories based around each of these concepts. Imajica is basically like, it's almost like a dream on paper. Like, it reads as if like you're like reading a subconscious unfurling of someone's thoughts as they're sleeping. That's the best way I can describe it to somebody. It feels like if you were to read, you know, in-depth descriptions of someone's like images in their head while they're dreaming, but a little more organized into a beginning, middle, and end plot, then that's pretty much Imajica. It's some of the best fantasy I've ever read, which I actually, as much as I have issues with most contemporary fantasy, I feel a lot of it tends to be the same, and a lot of it's repetitive. This breaks all those molds. It's like nothing else. And that's the thing about Clive's writing. It's really great fantasy and horror writing. It's unlike other stuff. If you read Clive Barker, it's like Clive Barker. There's no other writer kind of doing what he does, at least that I've ever found. You know, and I don't mean to hype this thing up to hell and back, but it's a genuinely good read, and it's an interesting novel. And it's actually one I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I just never could articulate it, you know. And I've tried to do this video several times, but couldn't quite get right what I wanted to say about it. But I kind of figured the best way to just talk about it is just to talk about it. So definitely check out Imajica. It's fantastic. Easily available. You can buy it online, or you can find it, I'm sure, at a Barnes & Noble or something. Fantastic book. Definitely a mind opener for sure. It's very, very like surreal and almost kind of psychedelic in places. There's interesting species and creatures and descriptions and ideas. There's there's these kind of interesting concepts. Like there's a secret occult branch of like a society in our world that tries to squanch down magic. They hate magic, and they're trying to stop anything magical leaking in from these other dimensions within the system of this multiverse, which is a very interesting idea in itself. It's just a very good, and that's one of just many things, you know. There's interesting descriptions of these characters. They're all fleshed out. They're all believable. Even a creature or entity such as Pyopa, which isn't really male or female, is given an interesting and humane treatment. He's, or she, it, I don't know, is developed as a character, and you genuinely feel for Pyopa. You feel for Judith. You feel for Gentle. You feel for other characters that come and go in this narrative. There's a sweet, sweet depiction of a little girl named Huzzah, who you meet in the middle of the story. And even though she's a brief player in this series of events, she's very believable. She feels like a real little girl, and you like her, you sympathize with her. She's a very cool character. And that's what Clive does best. He writes interesting stories with believable, interesting, and sometimes just downright unlikable characters. But they're nevertheless very entertaining. And that's why I recommend Imajica, as well as pretty much anything else by Clive Barker. I haven't read anything by him I dislike. But Imajica is like some of his best writing he's done in his very long and very prolific career. So anyways, sorry for that lengthy ramble about that. I hope you check it out, and I hope you guys like it. And if you have read Imajica, tell me what you think in the comments. I'd like to hear some other people's thoughts on it as well. But that's it for now. If you guys have any recommendations or requests for me to do, just write them in the comments. And if they don't sound like utter trash or something I would fucking hate, then I'll probably get to them, talk another video about them. So I will be back soon with another video. I don't know when or what it will be about, but it should be within a reasonable time. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. You guys are fantastic. And I will see you later. Bye.